I'm going to stand up for this. I'm just going to talk about the United States opening its embassy in Jerusalem May 14th, 6 days ago. So 6 days ago you had the United States opened its embassy in Jerusalem. It used to be in Tel Aviv. They reversed it. They put the embassy in Jerusalem. That's reversed decades of U.S. policy, and that's made Israel very happy because it's tipping its hat towards Israel, saying, Israel, you get the protection of the empire. You're allowed to do anything and everything that you want. And they know that. That's why they've been treating the Palestinians, with the open air concentration and the oppression for years. So, on the day the United States opened its new embassy, Israeli troops killed 62 Palestinian demonstrators near the border in Gaza. Israeli says the violence was incited by Hamas, the Islamist group that runs. Oh, of course. They killed children. They killed an 8-year-old. I guess that 8-month-old baby. That was really the thing that they were worried about, wasn't it? Watch out for that 8-month-old baby. Oh, my God. We forgot her. Whatever. The Onion actually ran a piece that was sitting there talking about how Donald Trump is fascinated by the Israeli cultural tradition of mass slaughter of protesters. In fact, it's safer for a Palestinian to be behind the rocket launchers than it is to be a peaceful protester, because Israel doesn't believe in democracy. They don't believe in human rights. They don't believe in life. They don't believe that the Palestinians should have life. The Onion was pretty... here's what they said, okay? So the Onion says this. After spending the better part of Monday afternoon watching live television coverage of the demonstrations in the hotly contested Gaza Strip, Donald Trump declared himself absolutely fascinated by the Israeli cultural tradition of slaughtering protesters. It's very beautiful. Such a beautiful custom, Donald Trump said of the cherished Israeli pastime of mowing down unarmed Palestinians with rifle fire. They've been doing this for years, but this is the first time I got a chance to watch the whole ritual. It's really something very powerful. Other countries just use tear gas, but here they outright murder people for throwing glass bottles. I could really see something like this catching on in the United States. Trump added that he was particularly moved by the portion of the festivities that celebrated a 13-year-old Palestinian boy becoming a dead man. So there was 13-year-olds, 14, 15, 16-year-olds. There's an 8-year-old kid, an 8-month-year-old kid. What did that 8-month-year-old do? This is only 6 days. 6 days ago. So, whereas the tragedy in Houston absolutely is a major tragedy. The difference between the tragedy in Houston and the one in Jerusalem is that the one in Jerusalem is systemic. The one in Jerusalem happens all the time. It's a product of the military-industrial complex. It's a product of imperialism. It's a product of the genocidal war machine. 2 million Iraqis have been killed. Right? Well, 7 million Yemeni people's on the brink of starvation, about to die. 10 to 100 million Native American people were genocided in order to make room for the pale faces. So 62 Palestinians were killed 6 days ago. So the tragedy in Santa Fe, there's 10 people that were killed in Santa Fe. 62 people were killed in Palestine. So in Gaza. This was 6 days ago. So if you're going to be pissed off at 10, the fact that that shooter killed 10 people, which you should be, because he shot, innocent people, people that didn't deserve to be killed, and he shot, the other thing is that he's a lone wolf, you can't stop a lone wolf from just losing his damn mind, whereas the murder in Gaza and Palestine and Jerusalem, these killings are systemic. They happen every day. In fact, there was an article that happened every year. It's cutting the grass. Every once in a while, you just got to cut the grass. Just murder a whole bunch of fucking Palestinian people. There was a 2013 article that said there's one Palestinian child killed every 3 days by Israel for 13 years. So in the 2000s, every 3 days, there's a Palestinian kid that's murdered, that's killed. So that's what we're looking at right now. When you look at the Las Vegas massacre, 59 people were killed. That's horrible tragedy, but it's not 62. 10 people were killed in Houston, Texas. And that's a huge deal. But people are going to be more focused on Houston, Texas. Those 10 people, instead of 110 people in Cuba that was killed in the plane crash, or the 62 Palestinians that were killed by America's protection of Israel in the United Nations. So 62 people is a lot more than 10. It's 52 more people than 10. So it's over 6 times worse. What happened in Palestine 6 days ago is 6 times worse than what had happened in Santa Fe, Texas at that school. And then the Cuban, the plane, that's actually 11 times worse than what happened in Santa Fe. So here's what happened in Gaza. So along the Gaza border, you had a 15-year-old protester who was killed in April. So this is just some stuff leading up to it. So Azam Awaidah, Awaidah. So Azam Awaidah was shot and killed in April 2018 on May 14th. May 14th is when the embassy was set up, and that's when 62 people were killed. It's also the day before their land day. So the great historic holiday that they celebrate. It's a day of mourning. A day of mourning for the land day, because that's when the great tragedy happened, when they came and stole all the land, and they've been celebrating it every year. And then the day before is when they're going to so that's either very stupid or intentionally inflammatory, saying we recognize your holiday, but we don't give a damn. We don't give a goddamn about your fucking holiday. We're going to put this embassy on the day, wherever we want, on whatever day we want, and there ain't nothing you can do about it. So, Israeli forces killed 6 children with live ammunition during large-scale protests near Israel's perimeter fence. DCIP confirmed the following child fatalities. Ibrahim al-Zarqa, 17, Saeed al-Khihir, 16, Saudi Abu Salah, 16, Ahmad al-Shar, 15, Wasal Khalil, 14 is al-Samuk, 13. So a 13-year-old is al-Samuk. 3 boys, 1 girl killed by Israeli forces, shot in the head or neck. The other 2 boys were shot in the abdomen. 2003. So this is happening every time. Every 3 days you're killing a child. In May 14th, they killed several children, several young adults, 13 to 17, right? Under 18. So those are children too. So we're not going to talk about those kids. Is it because they don't live in America that somehow makes their lives less valuable? And also the fact that there are enemies. Palestine is America's enemies and Cuba is America's enemies. Maybe that's another reason we don't give a shit about when an entire plane goes down. Which could have been imperialism. Couldn't that be a possibility? Hell, maybe we paid for Israel's bullets while they sat there and shot them. And they said they did exactly, they were happy. It's a very proud day. So they're very happy with they intentionally shot all these people. And they don't give a shit. They're going to continue to do it. There ain't nothing anybody's going to do about it because America, that's our pit bull. So our pit bull in the Middle East has America's protection. So you fuck with our pit bull, you're going to fuck with us. So the 62 Palestinians, some of them were violent. Some of them were peaceful, protesting against the inauguration of the first embassy in the U.S., first embassy of the U.S. in Jerusalem on Monday. It was disgusting. Merciless use of lethal force. It's gross that humans can murder each other like this. It's like, fucking Hamburger Hill. 62 innocents died. For what reason? To make sure Palestinians always fire rockets, right? Even Bernie Sanders is against the BDS movement. If you can't boycott, divest, and sanction, what the fuck are you supposed to do? You can't peacefully protest. You can't boycott a business. You can't divest your savings and BDS, divest and sanction. So you can't do any of those non-violent things. You're safer firing rockets instead of being at peaceful protesters. This is JFK. When you make violent revolution, when you make peaceful revolution impossible, you make violent revolution inevitable. So Donald Trump's decision in December to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of the Jewish state of Israel, to relocate the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem infuriated Muslims across the world, especially in Palestine, who see Israel as an occupying power since its creation 70 years ago in 1948. So this is the 70-year anniversary of it being an occupying, and then they celebrated it with this embassy thing. So this is insane. It would be like waiting for Christopher Columbus. I guess we got Christopher Columbus Day. So it'd be like celebrating Christopher Columbus Day. What kind of sick fucks would do that? So the 62 Palestinians, at least 5 minors was this report, were killed, and the Gaza Health Ministry said one of the minors was identified as a girl. At least 1,204 protesters were wounded, including 116 in serious or critical condition. The statement says about 1,200 others suffered other types of injuries, including injuries from tear gas. So, thousands of injuries. 62 killed, thousands of injuries. There were, a couple hundreds killed at the Las Vegas Massacre. I don't know how many were injured in Santa Fe. So not only was there a higher body count in Gaza than there was in Santa Fe, not only was it, but there's a lot more injuries too. So, just 6 days ago, right? This is 6 days ago. So if you know about the shooting in Texas, but you don't know about this, you got to check yourself. So Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner are at a festive inauguration of the new American embassy in Jerusalem. And 60 miles away, Gaza residents were getting their protest on and demanding that Palestinian refugees be allowed to return to what is now Israel. Israeli soldiers at the Gaza border killed 62 Palestinians, injured hundreds. And 62 victims identified so far. The majority are under 30 years old. 10 are younger than 18 years of age. 1 is 8 months old. And the 8-month-old, his name is Layla Anwar Al-Gandor. Layla. What the fuck did Layla do to you, America? Huh? Why did Layla need to die, America? 8-month-old Layla? That's what we're going to defend, huh? We're not going to say shit about 8-year-old Layla. We're not going to say shit that our government kills willy-nilly. There is no crime that our government can do that we, as Americans, will stop. You don't get convicted for war crimes. You don't get punished for any crime that is committed. Only if the military polices themselves. Only if there's some sort of internal investigation or internal accountability. And we all know how that works with the police. So, yeah, they investigated themselves, found themselves guilty of no wrongdoing. Well, that's good for them, you know, that's nice. That's perfect for them. Guilty of no wrongdoing, they get off scot-free. So, as Eldin Musa Muhammad Al-Samak, 14 years old, Wissal Fadl Asad Al-Sheikh Khalil, 15 years old, R.I.P. R.I.P. Ahmed Adel Musa Al-Shir, 16 years old. Saeed Mohammed Abu Al-Khir, 16 years old. Asadi Sahid Fahmi Abu Salah, 16 years of age. Talal Adel Ibrahim Matar, 16 years of age. Ibrahim Ahmed Al-Zarqa, 18 years of age. Abdul Rahman Sami Abu Matar. So those are just a couple. Those are just a handful. There's a whole list of all the dead. So 62 martyrs. And then they're sitting there just putting it on Hamas. Be very careful when they quote Hamas, because they just say, well, then the terrorist group. Hamas is a legitimately elected government. So Hamas is controlling, I want to say, one region, the Gaza, and then Fatah is controlling the West Bank. And so most people were Hamas, were the citizens of Gaza. There's a Hamas guy here who's taking credit, saying, not taking credit, but essentially acknowledging that 50 of the 62 Palestinians were from Hamas. They were from the political party of Hamas. And so, that's 12 people were regular people. But they're saying, what are you sitting there saying? That this is good for Hamas? 50 martyrs. That's what Hamas contributed to this massacre. They contributed 50 martyrs. So 12 were regular people, but 50 of them were of Hamas. I think it is troubling that you're more likely to die as a peaceful protester than if you are firing rockets. And to do it on Nakba Day, that's so stupid. It's culturally insensitive, but it almost seems it's either ignorant as fuck or it was intentionally done. And if it was intentionally done, it's just, they're laughing at the Palestinians saying we can do whatever the fuck we want to do. So they are right to be pissed off. They are right to look at this move as a signal by the United States that they're going to side with Israel just like they've been siding their entire lives. There were snipers out. 62 were killed. So think about how that went down. 62 people. You got a bunch of people just like throwing bottles and stuff and they just start shooting. You had snipers. How'd that 8-month-old die? What did they do? They just stomp on the 8-year-old, there was a baby on the ground. How'd they kill that 8-month-old, right? They killed a baby, killing women, killing children, killing 10 people under 18 years of age. They have snipers. 2,000 have been injured. Nakba Day. So it's called Nakba Day. On Nakba, N-A-K-B-A, on Nakba Day, it commemorates the 700,000 Palestinians who were expelled and hundreds of Palestinian towns destroyed for Israel's creation in 1948. So that was the holiday. The holiday was, remember when the Israelis took our damn land? And then that was the day they said, hey, we should go ahead and put the embassy on the same day that we took their damn land. And I think it was done by intention. It's intentionally designed. How could they ignore Nakba Day? He doesn't have a Palestinian advisor that says, oh, there's this huge holiday coming up called Nakba. It's like 9/11 morning. The 9/11 morning, it would be like Donald Trump building a huge cathedral at ground zero. I don't know. I have to think about that. But Nakba, you know what I mean? It's just like the horrible tragedy that befell upon a people, and then you just say, it'd be like the Jews. It'd be like Germans building a shrine to the Nazis on the day that, a whole bunch of Jews were killed. They count every single calorie that goes in and out of Palestine. They're oppressed. It's bullshit that Israel think that they could take land that their ancestors had owned millions of years ago. There's no Navy, no Air Force, no Army, no military at all for Palestine. This is just straight up murder. Straight up murder. 70 years of dispossession since the Nakba ethnic cleansing of 1948. So the two-state solution is clearly the obvious solution. Our foreign aid goes to both. But it doesn't happen because we always side with Israel. We're not for fairness. We're not for justice. We believe in friends over principles. We're corrupt. We're corrupt as fuck. We're allowing our pit bull to kill anybody and everybody. And if I have a pit bull and it goes out and it, kills somebody, that's on me. That's on me. And that's what Israel's doing. Israel's going around murdering in America's name. And we go ahead and we fight ourselves over between the two political parties who loves Israel more. So the Parkland shooting, you saw 27 dead bodies. Sandy Hook, you saw 28 dead bodies. Boston Massacre was 5. Combine those, 27, 28, 55 plus 5, that's 60. That's still less than the Palestinians that were killed. Combine Parkland, Sandy Hook, and the Boston Massacre, there are still less, those are still less of a body count than what happened on Nakba Day, the day before Nakba. May 14th in Gaza, 2018. 62 were dead. That's more than Las Vegas. 59 were killed in Las Vegas. And 500 were injured in Las Vegas. But there's 3 more dead in Palestine, but thousands were injured in Jerusalem. So they had more dead and more injuries than Las Vegas. And Las Vegas is the worst mass shooting, the single shooter mass shooting that we have ever. So that's 6 days ago. This just happened 6 days ago. So there's an Onion article, I mentioned it. The U.S. aid that we give to Israel, we give them $3 to $4 billion every year. $3 to $4 billion for their universal health care and education, right? We need to make sure that every single Israeli has universal health care. But we're not going to do that for the American people. So that's very, what the fuck, right? We're going to give them $3 to $4 billion to help with their universal education or universal health care. when we don't even have it here? We need to take care of our own first. So an Israeli sniper had killed Wassal al-Shiki Khalil, 15-year-old Palestinian girl murdered in cold blood along Gaza protest. So her life don't matter. She's born in the wrong country. Her life is worth less. So the last thing I want to mention is the argument around, the shooting in Texas is also going to be, gun control. Now, 80% of Americans believe in corporal punishment. It's illegal to hit your kids, and if there's evidence and your kids can file charges, then they could be heard. But they have to stand up to somebody who's been in this world for a long-ass time, and they love them. So really, they just want them to love them back, but they need to understand, right? So there's a lot of things going on there. If you're with an abusive, toxic parent, the parents of the shooter said that they want their privacy too. My guess is that his parents hit him. He was dying on the inside. Every time that father hit him, they died on the inside. He's getting bullied daily at school, every day going to school, getting laughed at by the coaches. They're calling him stinky and saying that he doesn't bathe well. So they're laughing at him, making fun of him. They're all picking on him. He doesn't tell his parents because the parents only give a shit about oppressing the shit out of him like the psychopaths that they are, who routinely hit their kids like 80% of America does. It's a safe bet to assume that they believe in some kind of corporal punishment. How come he didn't mention he was getting bullied? How come he didn't say this is unbearable? How come he didn't mention he didn't go to anybody? He couldn't reach anybody. This is a suicidal person who is this is his last hurrah. He was going to kill himself, but then once he was able to do it all, he got scared and he couldn't. So it was easier for him to hurt others than it was to hurt himself. But he's a suicidal person. And a suicidal person doesn't give a shit about their own life. They're capable of doing anything. So his parents taught him that violence is good and right and just. It's the correct way to solve all your issues. Right? Might is right. Of course you hit a child. You hit a child. You hit the shit out of them. How else are they going to learn? You got to give them discipline. You got to correct them. He listened to the actions of his child abusers. Violence is good. Violence is right. Violence is right up there with stealing and murder and rape. And his parents showed him that violence is good and right and proper and awesome for children. In America, if you're an adult, you won't ever get hit. So now that this guy shot all these people up, he'll never get hit again. He'll never get spanked. He'll never get hit because we don't spank adults. We don't spank our James Holmes. No adults ever get spanked in America, no matter what crime they commit, even if they're the ones spanking little tiny kids, little defenseless children who don't even know what the hell you're doing. I swear to God, sometimes it's like that's all people give a shit about, these fucking Christians. Hitting their kids, oppressing them. That's their right. It's my right to beat my kids. Yeah, and then when your kid goes to school and kills our kids, fuck you. Fuck you. So, if we're not talking about corporal punishment, if we're not talking about holistic issues, if we're not looking at this person as a whole, and instead we're just going into our camps, ban the guns. Don't ban the guns. Jesus Christ, you all. We need to really get past that shit. And actually have a real conversation. Everybody that does anything, they're all human. Everything that's ever done by any criminal is a human action. It is within all of us to do something like that. We all could be good, we all could be evil. So which wolf wins? And why do we allow the good wolf to win? What prevents the bad wolf from taking over? These are conversations we should have. And everybody's got a breaking point. In fact, I would feel more sorry for the kid that was getting picked on who just cried and didn't say shit. That's going to be the kid that's going to shoot everybody up because he internalized it. Well, if you say I'm dumb and fat and stupid and stinky, I guess I am. I guess I'll cry. Maybe you'll give a shit then. Now you got to stand up and fight. But if you want to like them, I remember getting into a fight and I cried after I hit the guy. Because I was like, I didn't want to hit you, man. You hit me. Why you let... and so I cried because I hit him. I didn't want to hit you. You made me hit you. You hit me. So, yeah. We got to look at the whole thing. There's poverty. There's dog-eat-dog capitalism. There's no democracy in our school system. We have a military-industrial complex. We murder overseas willy-nilly without anybody getting in trouble. So is that a big shocker? That the military-industrial complex that goes around starving 7 million Yemeni people, 2 million Iraqis are dead. They killed 62 Palestinians. would also be in favor of a culture of death and violence and destruction. Is that a big surprise? It's not that shocking to me. So that's why I encourage us to actually start talking about the damn issues. You want to just look at MSNBC and start repeating their fucking bullshit? No. Each and every, situation, there's their own thing. There's a thing going on there. So what's going on with this 17-year-old? Very specific. He was wearing a trench coat. He's getting made fun of he's getting bullied relentlessly by the teachers. And that's once the teachers are making fun of you, they're hurting your reputation around your peers. That's all they, in order to dominate and control the classroom, they'll use those tactics, those classroom management tactics of humiliation, isolation, pointing somebody out, using them as an example. They don't do classroom meetings like William Glasser. They don't treat them like people. They just shut up, sit down. I'm the boss. You ain't shit. In America. So, the Havana thing, I was kind of curious about it. It wasn't foul play. It doesn't seem like it's foul play. There's a black box flight recorder. There's 3 survivors. And it does seem like, the engine just burst into flames out of nowhere. And it crashed right after it took off from the airport in Havana. And 110 people were killed. 110. Including a bunch of kids. So, these are 110 lives are just as important as 10 lives. 62 lives are just as important as 10 lives. 62 lives are actually more important than 10. 110 lives are more important than 10. But since it's not a Sophie's choice, we don't have to pick one or the other. They're all horrible tragedies, right? Can't we just agree on that? Anytime a person dies anywhere in the world, they didn't need to, they were murdered, or it was an accident, that sucks, right? You don't have to, that costs nothing to have a sense of morality. Someone died and they shouldn't have died, it sucks. So, Jonathan Masters is finished with the Palestinian Gaza video.